Airstrikes against targets in Iran in response to the regime's continued attacks on commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. strikes hit more than 80 Iranian targets in an hours-long operation. Also breaking tonight, Iran says they will have a, quote, crushing response to these new U.S. attacks and that it will not allow interference in its management of the Strait of Hormuz. More as it comes in. And with that, let's bring in geopolitical analyst Harley Lippman and former Deputy National Security Advisor Steve Yates. Welcome to both of you. I don't know, Steve, I mean, we've been doing this a long time, and it seems to me like how long do we just keep this back and forth? Iran's like, oh, they violated the MOU, and you think, how many times can you lie? How many times do you have to be hit in response for things to finally click in?
Well, Trace, it's extremely frustrating to watch, and they have a very open strategy of playing for time. There's a lot of big things that have been put in place where the president is correct to say that there's significant pressure that's been put in place that has an impact on what their options are. Treasury Department has put back in place sanctions that will block the sale of their oil back into markets. There seemed to be a respite for a time, and some of us were wondering why we were doing that during that part of the negotiations, but that pressure is back in place. And now with these options, or these operations, if the Iranians do try to do anything big in response to this, then I think we're back into the mode of we need to degrade the IRGC further. That is the long tent in the pole. That's what's standing in the way.
Yeah, it really is kind of crazy. I want to put this up. This is on X. The Iranian deputy foreign minister writing this. The United States action in revoking the waiver for the exemption of sanctions, Harley Lippman. The Iran oil sales constitute a blatant violation of Article 10, and the subsequent military operations of this country against Iran also constitute a serious violation of Articles 1 and 2 of the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. I mean, they're threatening. They don't have a leg to stand on, and they're threatening like they're the ones that are kind of controlling the tempo here.
Well, as President Trump said, they've never lost a negotiation. So they are trying to win in the negotiating table what they lost on the military battlefield. And at the end of the day, the only way you really have closure in warfare is you utterly and totally defeat your enemy. This is what happened in World War I. World War I, Germany lost, but they didn't feel defeated. Then they came back 20 years later, and then they were crushed, and now we have peace with Germany. That's what needs to be done with Iran.
Yeah. General Jack Keane was on today. He was kind of presenting even more evidence showing that Iran simply cannot be trusted. Watch.
Over the weekend, we now have evidence that Iran, at Pickaxe Mountain, which is one of their nuclear enterprise sites, they're doing some recovery work, which is in violation of the status quo. They're diabolical, tyrannical radicals who are going to go right back to all the objectives that they've always had. Develop a nuclear weapon.
And what should the response be to this, Steve?
Well, it really comes down to what the president's strategy is for the end point he is looking for, short-term, medium-term. And if it's to wind down major military operations to balance some of the risk and maintenance going forward, there are things that you can do in the nuclear program that are multilateral. It's a part of globalism that might work a little bit under these circumstances. But it's whether he's buying time to let pressure and other things grind down on this regime as it runs out of money and it eventually will run out of ways to sort of throw thorns at us. Now, preferably, I would rather we go in with we have tremendous force in the region that's still there, and we have tremendous economic pressure tools. I think now's the time to open up communications and let the Iranian people begin to push for what the future they want should be.
Harley Lippman, do you agree with that? What would your response be?
Very much so. I think we've learned that we can trust the Iranians. President Trump has done everything possible to reach out to them with an open hand to try to make this work for the regime and for the people there. But they are out to destroy us. No nation in America's history has ever been more obsessed with destroying the United States than Iran. And the battle is on for the Strait of Hormuz. This is what this war is about. And Iran wants to win it. They've already fired on commercial ships. So they're sending a signal that it's theirs, and they want to exact a toll for ships going through it. And we have to break through that and stop them. And that's the only way to do that. Otherwise, you won't have freedom of navigation, and they could choke the world once again.
Yeah. Harley Lippman, Steve Yates. Thank you both.